paragraphs 1 through 8. You guys were asked to read paragraphs 9 through 18 before you started on your group. So we're going to go ahead and pick up reading here, have some discussion about what we read, paragraphs 9 through 18. So we're going to start at paragraph 9. What is the subtitle for that paragraph?
Green architecture.
Can anybody tell me what is architecture? Mr. James?
Architecture is a building, like the architecture of the building is before it's actually a real building. It's like when it's in the process of building.
Okay. So when it says green, we know that the title of the text is what?
Let's go green.
Let's go green. So when it says green architecture, what are you assuming that was to mean? Miss Wright?
I'm thinking that would mean that we're like basically talking about how to clean up, like how to recycle and
Okay, so how to clean up, how to recycle, what else could that mean? It says green architecture. So Mr. James just explained to us what architecture is. And they're saying that the architecture is green. So what do they mean by green architecture? Now she was saying recycling and cleaning up, but how could that relate to architecture? Mr. Hunter?
it could be like saving or like recycling, like saving architecture.
Okay.
Or it could be like preserving or like mixing up architecture.
Okay. So when you say preserving or mixing up, when we say architecture, we're referring to a what? A building. So when you say mixing up or preserving, what do you mean?
Like saving, or like the paragraph said, like we can save energy.
Mm-hmm.
So if we save architecture, it will be like better, like for the environment.
Okay. Any other thoughts on what green architecture could be, Mr. Tucker?
It's a place that like plants. They plant. They have lots of solar lights and plant plants and flowers.
Okay. So you think they would do that with the building that they're doing? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and read here just to kind of see. First, you're going to listen to me read paragraph 9, and then you're going to read paragraph 9. And then we'll just have some dialogue about what is it explaining to us so far. The ideal way for a business to go green is to follow the principles of green architecture in its building construction. Green architecture requires that people think about energy conservation and environmental protection before a building is built. So as Mr. James said, the architecture part of it comes in hand before the building is actually built. Okay? So when they say it's green architecture, they mean that they want people to do what before they build a building?
They want them to think about the environment.
Think about the environment and think about what they could do as far as to save energy
to make the environment better.
to make the environment better. So they don't want the architecture to make the environment worse. They want it to make it better. Okay? What are some ways that buildings can make the environment better? I mean, if it's a building and it's just sitting there and it's on the land, how can it make the environment better? What are some things that buildings do to harm the environment that we could kind of prevent by using green architecture? Ms. Williams?
By having solar panels on the
Solar panels on the roof.
the economy,
The economy, what do you mean by that?
like the land around it. So like it can be like planting and like animals and like
So basically, are you talking about the animals that lived there before it became a building?
yes, like the product.
Okay. So when we build things and there are animals that live in that area, what does that do to the environment? Mr. Tucker?
It makes the animals like move away from them.
Makes it move away. Is that good for the animals?
No,
No.
because they need to live.
Exactly. So those are some things that they kind of want you to think about before you decide to build a building. The California Academy of Sciences building in San Francisco is an award-winning green building. Its living roof is covered with 6 inches of soil that not only grows after I read it, then you're going to read it independently. The California Academy of Sciences building in San Francisco is an award-winning green building. Its living roof is covered with 6 inches of soil that not only grows native plants but also provides insulation, saves rainwater, and helps to direct air currents. Skylights in the roof save on heating and cooling by releasing hot air from inside and bringing in cool air from outside. Solar panels on the roof are a sustainable energy feature that provides electricity. So you go ahead and read that paragraph. What did you learn in science about conservation?
Conservation, which means like saving water.
Very good.
And this, it says, requires that people should think about energy conservation. So that means that they should think about saving energy.
Exactly. Very good. I like how he made that connection between what you guys are learning in science and then what y'all are doing here. So sometimes using that cross-curricular knowledge can help you determine the meaning of those unknown words. If you're learning about a word in science and you see it here, you can apply the same principles that you learned there to reading. Okay? Any other words, paragraphs 9 or 10? Mr. James?
The phrase living roof in paragraph 10.
Okay, the phrase living roof. And what do we see around the phrase living roof? Well, on each side of it. Quotation marks, okay? So that's just basically kind of like a nickname for what the roof is. Why do you think they call it a living roof? Is the roof actually alive?
No.
Okay, so why are they calling it a living roof? Mr. Tucker?
It's probably a place that
Probably. I think we can probably figure it out by just reading the text. So refer back to the text. Remember, most of the questions that you answer will have direct text evidence to support whatever it is. So if it says it's living roof, then there are some sort of context clues to provide evidence as to what this living roof actually means. Why are they calling it a living roof? Do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what does it say?
It's covered with 6 inches of soil that not only grows native plants but also provides insulation.
Okay, so why do you think they're calling it a living roof?
Because they let students come up there and plant plants.
Okay, so what does that have to do with the words living and roof? How does what we just read connect with those two words, living and roof?
It connects with living because they're plants that are living around it.
Very good. Plants are living things, so that is why they call it living, and then they are on the roof. And those plants growing there that provides insulation. Do you guys know what insulation is? Is that one of your unknown words?
No,
We learned it in
It was in our science books.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about
energy.
Okay, so let me see if I can provide some context for you to determine the meaning of insulation. Your home is insulated, and so is the school. Insulation is used to help us have a more comfortable living arrangement, or comfortable while we're in the building. Most buildings are insulated, except for maybe like sheds or garages. Those usually don't have any insulation. So what do you think insulation probably is, Ms. Williams?
it's probably air.
Okay, it could have something to do with the air. What else, Miss Anna?
Like one time, like sometimes it can be in the walls. Like
Okay.
one time, like my dad was fixing the walls, and there was like this pink stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it was cotton candy inside the walls. But he said that it's gonna swell up your face
Uh-huh.
if you touch it.
Yeah.
So, like that's called insulation that's inside your houses.
Very good. And how does that insulation help to conserve energy? How could having something in the walls help to conserve energy? Think about having to live in a shed that's not insulated. What would you have to do in order to make that situation comfortable? Ms. Wright, what would you have to do in order to make that comfortable?
Insulation in the walls has electricity in it, So if you have something that you have to plug into the wall, then when you plug it into the wall, then the insulation will help it work because you're getting electricity from the insulation.
Okay, well, actually, remember I said a garage or a shed does not have insulation usually. What would you have to do in order to make that a comfortable living situation? What could you do in that area to make it a comfortable living situation, Mr. Tucker?
Board up the walls.
You could build up the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so say if you were had to live in a shed and it was extremely hot. What would you have to do in order to cool the room down? In other words, what are some things that you could do?
You could either put like foil, not foil, but it's a type of shiny plastic
Mm-hmm.
that you can put on the walls to make it cooler. Because insulation, they have cooling insulation. When the wind passes through, it makes the air cooler, and so that confield that will help.
Okay.
Will help
That definitely will help, but that would be another way of conserving energy. I'm asking you a way that you can make the living situation comfortable without using any of the energy conservation techniques. How could you make that situation comfortable if without using any of those energy conservation? So you can't use solar panels, you can't use any of the things that were mentioned here as far as conserving energy. What would you have to do that is not an energy conservation technique? That means that it's not here. That means that that's something you have to come up with. What would you do? If you were hot in a room at home, what do you do?
You would like crack open a window.
You could crack open a window, okay? That's one thing you could do. What if it's hot outside, though?
Most sheds or garages have lights in them, and so you could use the lights to connect a fan or a type of like a small fan to use that to connect to the electricity and use the fan to cool the room down.
Okay, you definitely could do that. Now, if you use a fan to cool the room down, you're going to have to do what in order for that fan to work?
You're gonna have to find the place where the light is connected, and then put the fan where that is
In the electrical circuit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, when you put something in the electrical circuit, is that free of cost to us? No, that costs money, right? So whenever you think about green architecture, everything that we have to do to these buildings in order to make it comfortable for us to sit in every day costs money. And when you're going green, you're getting away from that money spending techniques. You're trying to make the building work for itself without spending so much money. Okay? So that's something that I want you to think about. What are some ways that we can conserve energy? So we talked about the California Academy of Sciences building and all of the different things that they do in order to make sure the building runs more efficiently. Looking at paragraph 11, it says special glass was used to create the transparent outer walls. These glass walls bring in natural light, thus cutting down on electricity costs. So that's another thing that they did. They used glass to do what?
To create the sun. Instead of using light or a lamp, they let the sun come in.
Exactly, and let that natural light take the place of that electricity. The building also runs on the principle that warm air rises. Instead of using a forced central heating system that would waste energy in such a large space with high ceilings, which means that's pretty much what we have here is a forced central heating and cooling system. Hot water running through tubes under the floors provide heat that rises, and recycled denim jeans are used to insulate the building. So instead of using that pink stuff that Mr. Hunter was talking about, they're using old jeans that nobody wants anymore. They're using that in order to insulate the building instead.
So they still have to pay the water cost because the water is running through pipes. So
right, but I think at the end of the day, it's more cost efficient because it may cost less to supply the water than it does to supply the electricity. When you go home, I want you to ask your parents, which bill is more, the water bill or the electricity bill?
Because you
What are they going to say?
Electricity.
because you have the
Electricity.
lights on more of the time than you
Using
would
that
wash your
water.
hands.
Exactly. So you're just thinking about in everybody's room, we got lights on, we got TVs on, we got things plugged up. Did you know that your TV plugged up is power using the power?
Yes.
In order for you to not use that power in your homes, you actually have to unplug everything unless you're using it. That includes your stove, your refrigerator. All of that stuff is constantly running power. And of course, those are not things that we unplug day to day. So those are just costs that your parents just have to pay. But this building has done everything it can in order to operate and cut costs where they can. Mr. Hunter?
Like, what if like you was like wanted to watch TV and your mom says time to put it up every time, like every time you about to go to bed, you're watching TV. She was just like time to get finished watching TV, and then she unplugs the TV. She would have to constantly do that every day if she like wanted to like save energy.
Exactly. And I actually had a roommate in college that was really, really big on conservation. And she had us to unplug all of our stuff that we were not using. So when we were not home during the day or we were not watching TV, she would unplug my TV, she would unplug her TV. And then when I got ready to watch TV, I would plug it back up. But that was just something that we did to just kind of cut back on energy costs. And we actually had a power bill that was only $25. Now you ask your parents, how cheap is a $25 power bill? And they would not believe. And you tell them Miss Daniels had a $25 power bill when she was in college.
compared to what you pay in cost like every day for everyday uses.
Exactly.
$25.
Okay, so let's take a look at your questions that you had. Now, most of us did okay with the first question. It says, one way in which the California Academy of Sciences has saved energy is by what? So all you were able to do is to go back and look at the California Academy of Sciences and look for things that they have done. Okay? So look at your answer choices. There's only one answer choice that tells you something that they have done. Which one is it?
D.
D.